interested in the defense that is taking over at many, many areas of the country, the three safety defense? Well, we got the guy for you today on the show, Coach PJ Gibbs. So make sure you stay tuned. Lots of great information to come here on the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show this week. So before we get started, though, I want to take one quick moment to remind everybody that the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show is brought to you by School Funder. School Funder, the only online fundraising company in America that lets you keep all of the money your team raises. You would never willingly give away 20% of the wins your team earns. I do schools all over the country willingly give away 20% of their proceeds in fundraising. Contact good people at School Funder. That's SCHOOLFUNDR.org, and let them know the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show sent you. It'll help the show. While you're helping the show, please make sure to like and subscribe right now. Totally free. This helps us reach more coaches. Number one goal of the show is to help coaches and to reach more guys and get more information out there. So, Coach, one of my favorite parts of the show is we ask guys about their football story. Coach is at the community school in Naples, Florida, been running the three safety defense with tremendous success, and excited to hear about your football story. So take it away.
Coach, thank you for having me on. So I just finished up my 25th season coaching high school football, and started out at my after I played in college at St. Peter's College in Jersey City, old MAC conference. Most of those schools don't have football anymore because of money restrictions. So the last season they had was '06. So I started my coaching career at my high school, Manasquan High School in New Jersey, in 2001. In New Jersey, I was there for 14 years. I got a chance to coach for 3 Hall of Fame head coaches: Vic Cabu, who was my head coach, George Najar at Sayreville, and Joe Martucci at Matawan, who gave me my first. I became a coordinator fairly young. I was 26 when I got my first DC job in 2006, and I had coached a lot of good kids, coached a lot of good people, learned a ton from a lot of people, and won some conference championships, state championships, playoffs, and things like that. And then got married in '09, and my brother-in-law, who now is currently the assistant head coach at Wake Forest, he was at the University of Missouri at the time, and he had been recruiting Southwest Florida, and he had mentioned to me at one of our family gatherings that down here people were looking for teachers and coaches, and in New Jersey your certificate has reciprocity in 49 states. Ended up applying for a couple jobs and got hired at Gulf Coast High School. We moved down here with a 3 and a 1-year-old in July of 2015, and was there at Gulf Coast for 3 years, won the first district title in the history of the school. From there, I got hired as the DC at Palmetto Ridge High School right up the street, and was a DC there for 3, and had the number 1 defense in the area in 2020. We think we gave up 6.9 points per game, and then won the first Collier County championship in the history of that school, and took a shot at a head coaching job at East Lee County High School in Lehigh Acres in 21, and the school hadn't won a game in 3 years. We ended up going 4-6. Couple plays away from being 6-4, and we moved my daughter's school that spring, so I was commuting 90 minutes every day, and my wife was like, well, if you need to get home, we need you to be closer to home. So I got back to Golden Gate High School in 2022 and was there for 2 seasons, and we had the number 1 defense in the area in 2023, and beat Naples High School, who's kind of like the standard here in Collier County. Actually, in 2020, we shut them out 38-0 to start the season at Palmetto, and that was the first time in 14 years that a Collier County team had beaten Naples. And then in 23, we were the first team in 17 years in the county to win at their home field, and we held them to the lowest rush total in the history of max preps. So then I was fortunate enough to interview and got hired at community school in Naples, where this past season we won the first district title in the history of the school with an 8-3 record, and just been a lot of good people. And I was with the U.S. national team as a head coach for 3 years, 17, 18, and 19, and then 2020. And this kind of where the system came into play, as I was a head coach for the Japanese national team in 2020 in January. and we ended up beating the U.S. national team in AT&T Stadium 28-20 using the three safety system. So spoke at a bunch of clinics, just again, been around a lot of good people and fortunate enough to learn a lot from those mentors.
Well, thank you, Coach. That's always one of my favorite parts of the story, hearing everybody's football story and how the game has kind of shaped them and their families and all that stuff. We're going to jump right into the topic, Coach. So tell me, why the three safety? Seen it so much more, saw two teams on our schedule running some version of it this year. And what brought you to the three safety defense, and what do you think gives you an advantage in the three safety defense?
Kind of going back to the previous point of the Japanese team is we knew going into that game that we were going to be, pretty significantly undersized, but extremely athletic. So I got a chance to meet with Coach Tyson Vett at Iowa State at the time. He's the DC at Cincinnati now. He was our area recruiter, so got a chance to sit down with him and talk about the basics of it, because we only have 5 days to get ready for the game. And my brother-in-law, Justin Kramer, was an integral part of that as well. Really, it comes down to it's numbers, on the field, but also speed on the field, and not substituting, being able to have guys play multiple positions based on your front and your pressure and your coverage. So that's kind of how that whole thing got brought out, and then we just keep building on it. I mean, it really gives you an advantage against the spread team, and like we were talking on, prior to coming on air, is the different offensive sets you see, because it seems like every year or two the 13 personnel stuff comes back in. 12 tight end wing is pretty big now, so you always have to have plans and be able to adjust. And I think we do a fairly good job of in-game adjustments and preparation, putting our kids in the best position to be successful. So for us to get as much speed on the field as we can. We're a gap control defense, even with all our pressure stuff. I grew up in the 4-3, so it's not just like, hey, we're going to run this pressure and hope we get there. If something pops, we know where the mistake was made. So just speed on the field and being able to get numbers and kind of forcing offenses to, not do what they really want to do in certain situations.
Coach, I've always kind of been of the line of thinking that most defenses fit into kind of one of four families. You got even stack, what most people call 4-3, even split, 4-2-5, 4-4, whatever you want to call it, odd stack, 3-3 type stuff, odd split, 3-4 type stuff. Most stuff can fit into one of those families. Most of the teams that we've seen that run the three safety defense, or are trying to run the three safety defense, are a little bit more tight front oriented, with what I would consider an odd stack family. How would you go about describing your version of the three safety defense?
So, I mean, I'll take you through kind of what we talk about during the installation process when we get into spring football, and really go off of personnel. We're very formationally based in what we do. So a lot of 10 personnel stuff for the most part will be a 3 down, where we're either a 0 and 2 head up fours controlling the B gap, a 0 and a 5 away from the back with a 4 eye to the back. We're a 3-2 box with our Viper, who's our nickel guys going to the passing strength. Now our middle safety, when you watch guys that do it really well, obviously Coach Heacock at Iowa State, who's now at Penn State, I've become very communicative with Coach Manny Rojas, who's at Delaware, who's a three safety guy, and we play our middle safety at 8 yards when we go against 10 personnel. And the rule of thumb for us when we do the installation is any coverage we start out is the corners, the field boundary corners, field boundary safeties. It's pressed too high. And the middle safety is at 8 over number 3, so that would be the back if we're going 10 personnel 2x2. Why we do that is because I don't want our guys thinking, hey, it's cover 3, I got to line up here. Hey, just get lined up based on whatever color it is. And obviously, extenuating circumstances, you're going to get in a 3rd and 20. We're not going to press, right? We're going to play the sticks. So that our alignment, if you were to watch, come to a practice and see us against 10P, it's you do have that that 3 safety, the field safety boundary, and we call him the rover, who's our middle safety. And in his rule of thumb, again, to start out is line up over the number 3. So it's 2x2. He's lined up over the back. And now what we'll do is we'll build in like motion checks to keep him in the middle. Or if we want to detach him, like if you guys go 3-by-1 open, we want to go 4/3. So we're either going to be trapping or playing Tampa with him having 3 control. And our single receiver rules are trap or invert based on the width of that wide receiver. So that's kind of just walking you through the 10 personnel installation process.
Love it, Coach. When I first started coaching, there was a lot more 4-3 even stack type defenses, and it seemed like all of those teams always had a Mike linebacker that was just a dude. A lot of the 4-2-5 guys, you'll talk about that free safety kind of has to be your guy. What would you say in the 3 safety defense in terms of positional importance when you're talking about putting your scheme together and you're talking about your personnel you have? What are the guys that are most important? I think it's probably a flexible enough system. You obviously have adjusted it to personnel at multiple schools, but if you had your bearings and had your choice, what are some of the spots you would say are the most important?
So we go from like the second levels. The Viper for me is probably the most important guy in that second level because you're going to have him fit the run, be a backer support. If we're playing trap coverage, he has to run with number 2 vertical and in. We're going to ask him to blitz, whether it's outside or inside, depending on what the call is. So I would say the Viper spot, you need a guy that's, a linebacker type, but is athletic enough to run with 2. And then the next one is, we call him our jackbacker, who's our will. He has to be able to, when we get to our 4-2-5 stuff. So our base front coach is Baylor. That's our 3-down front. And if we want to get to a 4-down front, we call Georgia. So basically that jackbacker is stemming to a 5 technique and kicking the line away from him. So 2 2s and then a stand-up 5. And then when you get to the back end, the tougher, more physical safety corner, those are our boundary guys. The more athletic, maybe like more of a basketball type kid or your field guys that are, not that they don't welcome contact. They're just, maybe more of a cover guy and can play half of the field. The most important guy in the defense is that middle safety, is that rover. The last 2 guys that I've had have been first team all area. In 2023, Daniel Lopez, first year playing defense, playing that rover for me, had 92 tackles. Because he's not accounted for in the run game, based on where we put him. And the Mike can be just like your old school plug kid because he's going to be basically gapped up against 10 personnel and then have run support on both sides of him. So he could be, obviously, more of that just downhill plugger type kid. We're not going to ask a whole lot of him, like as far as like coverage, man-to-man stuff, or like up on the line, maybe occasionally. But so if I was going to a school to do an install, I would ask you. I'd say, hey, coach, listen, let's get your personnel up on the board. Let's say you were a 4-2-5 guy. Okay, well, let me know how these kids are, and then let's build out the 3-down stuff from that and kind of work that way. Because I just give, like, when I go around the country and I do installs, it's really talking to the coaches about their personnel, right? And this is what I tell a lot of the coaches that reach out to me. I met with a couple yesterday, and you can go wholesale if you want to go full system. But the one thing I think we really pride ourselves on in talking to coaches all over the country and at clinics is that you can piecemeal things. Like, you don't have to be a full a full in, head first. You can kind of gradually build, whether it's the pressure package or certain alignments and things like that. But as far as position description, those would be the top guys for me looking at a program's roster.
So, Coach, take me through a little bit of the practice planning, because it sounds like there's some hybrid guys. How do you work that into groups? Do you have the safeties coach, a corners coach, line? I mean, what is the ideal staff situation? Because I'm sure in your meeting with coaches and talking about installs, the coaching situation is vastly different depending on the school you're at. There's some that got a whole lot of guys who are really knowledgeable. There's some that maybe have some that are not. So walk me through maybe your ideal practice planning situation, or maybe the bare bones of what guys can do if they got, say 2-3 guys that have some type of base knowledge.
Yeah. So I mean, ideally, you want a D-line coach, you want a linebackers coach, you want a corners coach, and a safeties coach. And then when it comes to those hybrid guys, so like The Vipers generally will go with the linebackers one day and the secondary another. I always mention whatever linebacker is going to be your stem guy in the 4-down stuff. He needs to go with the D-line coach at least once a week for an indie period because we need to know how to squeeze and spill, not get reach, rush the passer, blitz peel, things like that. You can't just throw a kid up there and say, hey, go do this, right? That you're not setting him up to be successful. And when you talk about a staff that maybe is like a smaller school that has position guys coaching both sides of the ball, I think it's really up to you as the head guy or the coordinator to really, sit down and talk about, the value in your time. As far as like how are we going to plan this out, especially at a smaller school. Probably most of your skill guys are going both ways. So you really have to figure out like, okay, well, is today, an offensive day, so those skill guys go with the offense, and then the next day they go with the defense, or if you do it in the same practice. I really think at those schools in that situation, it's really imperative that everybody's on the same page, and as a collective group, you're getting the most out of your kids for the time that they're, time you guys, are out on the field.
Coach, in the teams that we've seen that are running this, seems like you see a lot of that double-edge type pressure, a lot of trap corners. That has been something I've noticed in the three safety stuff there. But walk me through game planning-wise, how you go about attacking that. What are things you're looking for? What are ways you want to attack certain offenses?
So I think first and foremost, when you look at film, you want to identify who the best one or two players are on their offense. And then, obviously if they're a guy in space, how do we take that guy away? And whether that's, by coverage, by alignment, or we're going to bracket them. We have different ways in coverage. Like, we have our yellow coverage, which is our bracket stuff, and we pressure out of it. We have a blue stick coverage where basically playing like a box and one, we take our best cover guy and press him on that guy and take him out of the equation, but just play zone around him. So that's kind of like, just preliminary, how we'll look at that. And then, formations. We look at the top three formations, top three runs, top three passes. And so then we'll build out our alignment and pressure plan, with that scattering report. And my whole thing has always been, if you're going to be a 10 personnel team or even a team that's a Y off wing team, like we can stay in our 3-down stuff, and we can be very multiple. One of the things obviously growing up as an even front guy, and then switching to odd, primarily, I go back to watching like Coach Kirby Smart at the Nike Clinic on YouTube a couple years ago, and I really found this point when he talked about like when Alabama went from like the Terrence Cody type D lineman and other linebackers to a little bit of a lighter person to be able to run, and then the odd front stuff when he went in clinic at Texas. To me, it's like depth in the defense. I think that's a great point. Like we're depth in the defense, and for us, it's multiplicity by simplicity. Like we're going to line up in looks, but we're going to have 4, 5, 6 different pressures out of that one look. So like when you're breaking us down, because we're pressed too high post snap rotation, we give you like we call our Florida front, which is everybody's covered up. So nose, two ends, Mike and Jack line up over the guards. We're going to have 6 different pressures out of that. So you can't tell your quarterback, hey, if they're lined up like this, you're just going to get this. There's 6 different options that we'll have out there on film to try to give you, obviously take more time out of your practice to confuse your players, but also maybe take time away for stuff that you need to hit, but you can't because you have to concentrate on so many other things. But yeah, so like for us, formation is big. So like if you're going to add gaps, so like a tight end or a tight end wing, we're going to come up with fronts and different movements and pressures to take your best stuff away. Now, like with our 4-down stuff, or even like when we get into defend in 12 personnel, one of the things that we've done in the past is we present presentation of a light box or population other places to get a slide or a blocking scheme called different to our advantage. I like to stack that middle safety behind the mic when the jack is up, especially if you're playing like an athletic quarterback, because now it allows that middle safety, that rover, to run tackle to tackle. And again, you're not going to tell your O-line to say, hey, we're double teaming to the guy 8 yards off the ball, right? Like you're not going to do that. But it allows him to be free, and I think that's one of the flexibilities of the defense is that guy is your chess piece. And then like when we build out our pressure package, it's okay, if are you a gap scheme run team? Are you zone? Are you a boot? Are you using like wing T principles out of the gun? So we really want to attack the backside A gap, or we want to show, cover everybody up. So you have to declare everybody single block, and we take away the double teams. One of the things we've got really good at over the last couple years is when we do scouting, it's when are you snapping the ball on average every play? Because when we stem, we want to stem. So let's say, coach, you guys average snapping the ball at 14. Well, we want to stem at 16 because we want your O lineman thinking, okay, hey guys, right now we're going to run 32 power to the right. All right, we're going to double team the 3. The tight end's going to go down to the mic. We're going to kick and pull. Well, now we stem to an odd front, or we stem to the Georgia front, or we stem to the Florida front, or our Bear or our Badger stuff. So now, like, the quarterback wants the ball, but now your lineman, all the wires are crossed up top. So maybe you got to burn a timeout. Maybe you jump off sides. Maybe we guess wrong, which we have done in the past. I'm not saying it's perfect because it's not, but I'm playing the percentages. I'm playing the odds that you're going to snap the ball at 14 seconds on average.
That's interesting you say that because thinking about it, the teams that we saw run that were a little bit late stemming, and it did definitely presented some challenges during the week talking to our linemen about those type of things and those guys moving late. Obviously had great success with the coach. What do you say are some of the things that offenses have done that have given you trouble? Because exactly what you said, I know from an offensive perspective, that middle safety guy is really hard to account for.
Mm-hmm.
There's things that make it really difficult for him to account for. What are things teams have maybe done that you've been like, oh, that was pretty good, and it's
Yeah.
you guys to adjust and do those type of things?
Sure, yeah. So I would think like you have to have it planned for 12 personnel. You really do. And whether that's by alignment, by front, by pressure, like one of the things I'm doing a lot of studying on this off season is that. And I've been looking at a lot of the stuff that Oregon's doing. Indiana's doing a phenomenal job because I really like what Coach Haynes does in a sense where like they're very zone pressure oriented, which I mean I really like because I think when obviously man pressure you get there great, but if you don't and the quarterback's athletic, get out, things like that, and the simulation of those things. So with the 12-piece stuff, being able to be a 3 down against 12, but being able to pressure, not always matching that personnel with a front. Let's match it with a pressure. So 12 personnel definitely. Quarterback running 12 personnel. Like we get quarterback duo, we get Q power, we get load option, stuff like that. I think that's something that and again, coach, you've done this a long time. Like if you're just like complacent with what you're doing, you're not gonna you're gonna be stagnant, right? You're not gonna grow and be successful. So I think for us, it's doing our study on what we got hurt with this season, and then looking into, okay, when we see that team again, how are we going to attack them differently? Because obviously what we were doing and adjustments we were doing they weren't working.
Coach, love all that stuff. Let me ask you, because I've seen this a lot at the 6A level. See, I had a lot of coaches that talk about using this at the and it took a while. We're a 4A school. Took a little while for it to get to us. I think you've seen it at the bigger school classification level a teeny bit more. But let me ask you this. How does it match up against maybe some of the more old school offenses that, a lot of times in 6A, at least in Arizona, I watch 6A games and it's all variations of spread. At the lower levels, you'll see a lot of not the gun T stuff Kenny Simpson's running, but your old school wing T stuff, boot, trap, counter, sweep, all that stuff. And then you see a lot of, we used to jokingly refer to it as the child abuse offense, used to give us trouble with the double tight, double wing, with the foot-to-foot splits. Some of those, maybe some T formation stuff, even seen a little bit, split back veer. How does it do against some of those maybe older school offenses?
So I go through, so like we have checks built in to the system for the wing T. We have a couple different fronts that we run. Flexbone triple option. We have some stuff built in as well. So we have that pretty much covered as far as what we want to do. the split back veer stuff, we do have. So like I mentioned, the 23 team and Naples was a split back veer team. So we held them. They were averaging like almost 300 yards a game, and we held them to under 32 yards rushing. So I think the key to those offenses is you have to be extremely mobile up front. In other words, like slanting, twisting, stemming, pinching. Like you can't just allow those linemen to have clean angles on your guys because they're going to get movement, right? Or we're going to get trapped. So I think that's one of the things that I pride ourselves doing against those offenses is, we got to have some type of movement on every snap, whether that's to both sides, to one side, to the 3-man side, to the 2-man side. You have to, because if you just sit there, they're just going to wear on you. They're going to beat you down. And I think that goes into our philosophy of like, we're going to dictate to the offense. We really hang our hat on bringing havoc and dictating to the offense. And, the kids really grab onto the havoc rate and, like we're going to show up and do what we do. And they need to adjust to us. And I think that's something that we've done a pretty consistent job of over the last 5 years.
Coach, I know there's stuff you have out there. You can be brought in to do some of this stuff. Tell me a little bit about, you got a website and all that stuff. Tell me where people can get more information if they're interested in trying to install this with your system.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and let me go ahead and share the screen here, Coach. I'll get on my website. So this is our website here. I actually do have a 300-page workbook coming out that goes along with all 15 courses of the system, as well as like a couple manuals that are about between 90 and 100 pages. Hopefully they go live within the next week. This is obviously people want to consult. They want to bring me in for install. I'll click on that real quick. So this is kind of like Kenny's been great. He helped me, kind of get this shell, but 2-3 day install at a high school, and this is just kind of, a tentative one, right? If you bring me in, I'm there. So you guys tell me what you want me to do. But that's a sample install schedule. This is the game that kind of started it all. This is the Japanese game. You can pull that up. You can watch it. Actually, one of the courses in the system, I'll show you here, Coach, real quick. I do have a quick cut drive. That's 2 years of game film and clinics. That's a one-time fee. Anybody wants to join it, they're more than welcome to. I do have a PowerPoint that's free to install here. So this is like our, let me click on that real quick. So this is like our base install. This is all our Google Slides that you get, and it's downloadable for free on the website. So if anybody wanted to go to the website, they could do that. And then all the CoachTube stuff, if anybody's interested in, let me see, the CoachTube courses right there. They can go to that. That's the system and all the different bundles that's available. And then free downloads, so like grading sheets, trap coverage presentations, things like that. I really like this is something, Coach, that I really think is awesome. I shared this. Actually, this thing blew up on Twitter yesterday. I think a bunch of people retweeted it. But this is like a 20-minute presentation I did with Victory IQ on the base installation of the defense. So it walks you through like 10 and 11 personnel, and also some practice film. So it's a good resource for coaches. And then any books, obviously, that we're going to add the workbooks to that. But yeah, so that's that, and then podcasts and things like that. But it's something that, there's a bunch of testimonials from a bunch of coaches, and, anybody can get in contact with me, the cell phone and the email for anything, and that's kind of the website. And if anybody subscribes to, I have a newsletter that comes out the last Wednesday of every month. It's called Fundamentals and Havoc. One of the things to go back on too, Coach, with this, let me get to the PowerPoint. Let me go back to sharing, Coach, real quick. Let me get to
Yes, sir.
So these PowerPoint slides. Let's see, share this tab instead. There we go. All right, these PowerPoint slides, the guy that does them for me, the guy's name is Dan Budd. He's a coach out in California. If anybody wants him, they're completely, you can edit them. He'll do your logo, offense, defense, special teams. If you mention my name, he'll give you a 10% discount. I highly recommend it. I mean, I use this for all my clinics. Dan does a phenomenal job. So if anybody's interested, you can reach out to him on Twitter, and he does a great job, with that. So that's the downloadable deal here. And then, I have a Facebook group, the Fast and Physical Facebook group, and my Instagram and Twitter is both at Coach PJ Gibbs and at Gibbs Defense. Yeah, it's been I've done I think I'm at like 10 or 11 installs over the last 3 years. I've done Ohio, Indiana, Florida, New York, New Jersey, possibly going to Texas this year. And it's just cool because football has given me so much, and I love giving back, and I don't mind hopping on a meeting with the coach if they got a question, even if they're not a system owner. It's that to me is like whatever. Like if you want it, great, it's up there. But I'm just here to help people and give offenses a lot of problems.
Well, Coach, I really enjoyed that. While we have you, if there's anything else you'd like to cover or anything, if you were going to go through like the basic I know you have a system to sell. I'm not allowed to give away any trade secrets.
No.
If you were going to give the bare bones, you were coaching a staff on some of the stuff maybe that you have out there, how would you go about doing it? Give me the 8 minute version of that if you could.
So I would start with, I'll go ahead back and share the screen here, Coach. So I would start with, let me go to install here. Let's share this tab instead. So I would start with like the basic, 10 personnel, like how we're going to line up to 10 personnel. So, we have our Viper. We have, basically how you want to play your D line. Like we play, like I told you, our Baylor stuff, a multitude of ways. We're always going to slant the nose away from the back to start. It's really hard to teach a two-gap nose, especially at the high school level. And then stand up fours, playing the B gap. So our backers are gapped up. We'll be 3 over 2 here. So we'll play Tampa 2 to this side or trap. That's the one thing, Coach. I know you brought it up. If you can play trap coverage in high school, I think it's an unbelievable resource. You're taking away the quick throws. You're adding secondary run force. I think it's awesome. And I'll show you a clip here in a second. But yeah, I would walk them through the 10-piece stuff. Talk about the rover being lined up over number 3. We always talk in that install video that's on the website. I talk about like we teach them to be a low hole robber to a banana fit, meaning like if we got inside zone, glance RPO, he's sitting right in the window. Now if we get quarterback run zone read, he's checking the A gap and then he's banana fitting off the backside of the defensive end because they're going to zone to our defensive left. So he's that extra run fit. And then this is the one I was talking to you about, Coach. This is our Apache check. So here, same box. We're 4 over 3. Trap or Tampa. He's got 3 control. And then based off of the width, we're going to either trap this or play invert where he's going to lock on, the corner will lock on him man to man. But I will call that in the spring. And during the season, I tell the corner, like if you're going to call trap, okay, you need to be able to fit speed op. Like you got to be able to fit it. Like if you don't think you can get there, we call Indiana. Let's check Indiana so we know we're playing invert. Okay. So that would be like the base 3-down walkthrough stuff, Coach. And then let me get to. Okay, so here is like our Georgia. So we have a slide and a crawl front. So Georgia, we'd stem, okay, and then slide for us, okay, is over front. So 5-3 shade. We're going to stem to mint. So that means we'll be 2 4 eyes and a 0. Crawl is the opposite. We start in mint and stem to over. Gotcha. Yep. That's just kind of like a little glimpse into the 4-down world. Now let me get out of this and let me go to the website.
You talked about the Viper moving to the passing strength and how important he is. He's the guy that I believe you said he's going to spend some time or who was it again? Remind me who's going to have to spend some time with the D line, have to going to spend some time with the linebackers.
The jack backers got to go with the D line because we're going to ask him to squeeze and spill, fight the reach, and rush the passer. The Viper will go with the come with the DBs, come with me to work on the trap coverage stuff. To running with two vertical. So this is, let me see, Coach. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so let me go ahead and play this and then mute it. All right, and obviously you can hop on YouTube and you can watch this. Let me see, get to here. I think this is the first. Is this the first series? Yeah, this is the first series. Okay, so this was like we had 5 days to get ready. We got them their playbooks in November, so they studied all the way until they hit the ground running in January. But you're going to see the size difference. I mean, compared to what. So this young man now at Mississippi State. This kid's a running back at Maryland. But you're going to see. You watch the bottom screen. So here's the trap. Just to give you an idea. Here's trap. Fit in here. You see how the H-back pulled, and he went to go look, kick the corner. That freed up the linebacker to make the tackle.
Yes, sir.
So that was first down. I'll just go through the first. We go 3 and out the first drive, which was, for us was huge.
Yeah, obviously these U.S. teams got some dudes. You can see that just.
Oh man, let me tell you,
standing there.
This kid was at Duncanville High School. He started in the state title game as a freshman.
He can play some ball, obviously.
Yep. So here, let me see. Let me go to So here so this is our Apache check, right? So you can see our 3 down box. We're going to trap, and then we're 4 over 3 here. So you'll see the Rover's helmet kind of show up post snap, but he's over number 3 right here, and then we're playing Tampa over these 2 guys.
Great job.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah. One of the things I said about that group of kids was for the rest of their life, they can tell their grandkids that they flew to America and won a game in Cowboy Stadium. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's that's kind of like basic to start out with. But yeah, it's like I said, you can go full on. You can piecemeal it, however you want to do it. But it's there for people. The resources are out there. Like I said, you can go to the website. You can watch the install video for free. You can download the PowerPoint for free. You can go to the free downloads and get the call sheet, get the grade sheet. My AFCA presentation on promotion of the program and recruiting in 21's up there. It's all free. Like I said, if people want to pay for stuff, cool. But there's a lot of free resources to get people started.
Well, Coach, we certainly appreciate you taking the time to join us today. And I really, really enjoyed all of that. Lots of great stuff. I would encourage you, if you're interested in getting into this 3 safety defense world, make sure to contact Coach. He's the best out there. So looking forward to seeing you continue to have great success. And we appreciate you joining us. And we will see everybody next time for another edition of the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show.